Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be covering bones in Blender for absolute beginners. Now keep in mind, there are some things I'm not covering here. So I'm not going to be covering like constraints and relationships between bones and all that sort of stuff. This is just the absolute basics, getting you to understand the concept of taking an armature in Blender, adding it in, and how to make it deform a piece of geometry. And we're even going to be touching a little bit on weight painting, so how you can influence how much the bone influences this. So this is an absolute basic one. So if you already know kind of some things about rigging, this is going to be extremely boring for you. But if you're absolutely new and you want a video that just takes it step by step and makes it simple for an absolute beginner, this is definitely a video that is going to benefit you. So keep watching and I'll show you how to do rigging in a Blender. So to best demonstrate this, let's go ahead and select all the default objects. We're just going to press delete. And let's go Shift A. Let's go to our mesh options, add in a circle. And let's just quickly go to our add circle options here. And let's just give it something like 12 vertices. Now we're just going to go drop that down and we're going to go into our edit mode. And with all of this active, we're just going to go E to extrude and Z and extrude it up. And let's take it up about this high, just so we have a nice long cylinder. Now we're going to go Control R, hovering over here. And we're just going to click once and then again. So 2 times left clicking to add in this loop here with Control R. Then we're going to come here to our loop cut options and let's just go something like 15. And now we have some nice little, a bit of topology here that we can bend around. If you want to, you can just go ahead, Shift Alt, left click to select the edges here, or just go F just to fill them and then go Control B, just create a bevel. And you can grab the bottom here as well and go F and then go Control B, just create a bit of a bevel. So what we have here is just a simple object to demonstrate with. So I'm going to tab back out, I'm going to right click and I'm going to go Shade Smooth. So what we want to do here is we want to add in some basic bones, parent this mesh to those bones, and then deform the mesh by moving those bones. This is an absolute beginner's tutorial. So we're just really focusing on just the very basics. So what we're going to do, we're going to go Shift A, and this time we're going to go to this option here called Armature. Now it is all these bunch of options I have because I've enabled some different add-ons and built here called Armature. So what we're going to do, we're going to go Shift A, and this time we're going to go to this option here called Armature. Now it is all these bunch of options I have because I've enabled some different add-ons in Blender, but the one we're focusing on is just a single bone. So you can create your own system here. Now what you have here is just a single armature that's added in, and kind of look at this armature as a package, right? Currently, if you go Z and you go wireframe, you just have this one single bone here. But if you go into edit mode of that bone selected, inside of here in this, you can kind of create like a whole system or network of bones, right? So for example, this is a bone in here. So let's just grab this top little nub. Let's go G and go Z to move it up. You can also grab the nub down here and go G and move that around. Or you can just left click on this whole bone and go G to move that around. You can also rotate. So anything you can kind of do with mesh, you can do this. You can even grab a nub at the top here. And just like you can go in edit mode, you can go E to extrude that as well. So I'm just going to undo that for now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to grab the tip of this bone and just bring it up a little bit. And then we're going to go E to extrude and Z. We're going to extrude up on the Z to about here. And then we're going to go do it again. And let's go again. And then one more time, we're just going to extrude up like so. So now we have some bones. We need to almost think about this like the vertebrae inside of an animal. The less amount of bones you had, if we only had like, I'll quickly demonstrate, if we only had like 2 bones in here like this, we'll only be able to have a point here where it can deform over here, because this bone can rotate and this bone can rotate at this point, but there's no in-betweens. Now, there are some bone options which we're not going to get into today, and these are called bendy bones. So bendy bones are different, and I'll quickly just overview this, because we can add in bendiness to an individual bone. So even though we'd only have 2 bones, it makes it possible for this to be more bendy than it can actually be. But for today, we won't get really into that too much. We're just going to keep it really simple with the default octahedral bones in Blender, okay? So I'm just going to delete these, just trying to get some basic concepts across. So now that we have these bones here, let's quickly go over here to our pose mode. Now the pose mode is a bit different, because as we are able to go into edit mode and actually create bones and extrude them, distribute them, the pose mode here gives us the ability to pose those bones. Now what's unique about the pose mode is if you go into pose mode and you would actually move one of these bones, unlike in your edit mode, over here if you select that bone, you can, in this case I rotated it, so I can go Alt R to reverse that rotation. And setting back to transforms, right? So pose mode is where we would come into pose. I just want to make sure we understand the difference here between edit mode and pose mode. Inside of pose mode as well is where we can add some transforms, but don't worry about that too much right now. For now, just keep in mind that if you want to move this whole system of bones, we can grab the very bottom bone and then go G to move it. Now the reason we can't just grab one of these bones up here and press G to move it is because there's a hierarchy. And a hierarchy works like this. So this is the first bone we had in our scene in edit mode, and we started extruding from that bone. And where we're extruding from, that creates a hierarchy by default, because this bone that we extruded from this bone is connected to it, and the bone we extruded from that was connected to this, and so on and so forth. So this is a hierarchy. And in Blender, you can change these hierarchies, but we won't get into that right now. Let's just get to what we really want to look at here, and that's how to deform the cylinder. So let's go back into object mode. And let's grab this cylinder. And what we're going to do, if you want to parent something into bones in Blender, you always have to grab the mesh first. And then holding in Shift, you select your bone system. Then you're going to go Control P, and that brings up your parenting options. Now, and what we're going to do, if you want to parent something into bones in Blender, you always have to grab the mesh first. And then holding in Shift, you select your bone system. Then you're going to go Control P, and that brings up your parenting options. Now, Control P we use for all other sorts of parenting in Blender. But now when you do it in this situation, you're going to see some more options, and that has to do with iron P in Blender. To form the cylinder, we go over to our modifiers. We can see Blender Blender is automatically added in the armature modifier, and it's already given us that object is the armature here that's selected. Okay, so now what we can do, we can grab this bone set and we're going to go into pose mode, and now we have the ability to go in here and rotate these bones. And you can see here, we're deforming. Now, the reason it looks kind of bad like this is because Blender has done its best job here to try and do them. Shift, you select your bone system. Then you're going to go Control P, and that brings up your parenting options. Now, Control P we use for all other sorts to do. Now, the armature pose. And you can see here, we're defining G with object Z with X-rays, weight, and let's just draw onto. Shift, you select your bone system. Then you're going to go Control P, and that brings up your parenting options. Now, Control P we use for all other sorts of parenting in Blender, but now when you do it in this situation, you're going to see some more options, and that has to do with armature deform. So these ones here. So we're going to go with automatic weights. And now, if we grab the cylinder, we go over to our modifiers, we can see Blender is automatically added in the armature modifier, and it's already given us that object is the armature here that's selected. Okay, so now what we can do, we can grab this bone set and we're going to go into pose mode, and now we have the ability to go in here and rotate these bones, and you can see here we're deforming. Now, the reason it looks kind of bad like this is because Blender has done its best job here to try and do them by default, but we can do it a bit better. So I'm just going to press A to select everything, go Alt G, Alt R, Alt S just to reset any transforms. Let's go into pose mode, and with this bone structure selected, we're just going to hold in Shift and select our mesh, Then we're going to go to object, and now we're going to see we have a weight paint option. And now what we can do is we can go Z, we can go to wireframe. If that doesn't work, let's just come over here and toggle on our X-ray so we can see our bones. And now if you hold in Control or Command, you can left click on a bone and you can see its weight properties. So in this case here, you can see we currently have the draw enabled. So let's just use the draw and let's just draw onto here. And anything that is red or warmer in value is going to have more influence. So if this bone here, everything that's warmer, it's going to be more influenced by this bone. So in this case, we want to probably go like this and just paint up to where that bone kind of ends over there. But all this influence here, we want to get rid of it. So what do? We go over here to the brush option, we go to subtract, and now we can paint away. So the less warm the values are, closer to this blue over here, the less influence we're going to have. So now I'm painting all of this away. Idea here. Now we have a cool way of controlling this. And that's really awesome. So another thing we can keep in mind, let's just say for example, we grab this top bone and
Rigging can get pretty Rigging can get pretty complicated, especially as you get into more advanced topics like constraints and drivers, but maybe you only need something simple, or maybe you're just impatient. So here are some of the basics of rigging for when you want to get started fast. I'll be talking about two main rigging styles. One is a rig that deforms the model, and the second keeps each piece rigid and separated. For the first one, I'm using a character I made, but this will work for anything you want to bend and deform. Press Shift A to add an armature, and if you don't want your bones to be covered by the model, then you can go to Object Data Properties, it looks like a little running person, and turn on In Front. This is also where you can change the shape of your bones and show the names and axes. Then just select the armature, tab into edit mode, and you can select the head or tail of the bone, move them around with G, and extrude with E to place your bones. The thick end is the head, and that's where the bones will pivot from when you're in pose mode. I'll usually do the center of the body and then 1/2 if the model is symmetrical. You can get the bones close to the body by using snapping. I'll usually set it to face project and center. Then when you're moving around, you can hold Control to snap, and you can adjust it from there. This is good for shapes that get a little weird, like you could rig tree branches more easily this way. You can also Shift D to duplicate bones, parent bones with Control P, either connected or keep offset, and you can unparent or disconnect bones with Alt P. If your model is symmetrical, then select all of the bones that aren't in the middle and press Control F2 to batch rename. Set this to bones, this to set name, and suffix. Type .L and press OK. Now all of the bones on the left side of your character have a .L at the end of their names. This is important if you ever want to mirror poses. There's also an auto-naming option that does pretty much the same thing if you right-click. Now with all of those bones still selected, right-click and choose Symmetrize to copy all of the left side bones over to the right. Tab back into object mode, select your model, shift-click your armature, Control P, and choose Armature Deform with automatic weights. And you can do this if your model is multiple objects too. Just select all of the objects and then the armature last. This should add an armature modifier to your objects and also a bunch of vertex groups that have the same names as your bones. This is where the weight painting information is stored. And if at some point you mess up and want to start over, you can remove the armature modifier and delete all of the vertex groups with this arrow. Select the armature, press Ctrl Tab to go into pose mode, and start moving things around to test your rig out. If this gave you a good result, then this could be the end of the video for you. If you got an error that says bone heat weighting failed, that's because your mesh has too many overlapping parts. I'd recommend either remeshing it, doing retopology. There are people who have spent literal decades trying to get better at character animation. Basic posing is very simple. Go into pose mode by selecting an armature and changing this to pose mode, or by pressing Ctrl Tab. Then you can select a bone and press G, R, or S to move, rotate, and scale. For trackball rotation, you can press R twice. You can also transform bones on specific axes. You could rotate a bone using, I already mentioned the auto IK option, but we can also turn on pose mirroring up here, and it should work as long as the bones are named by using this dropdown. Then select the bones you want and start rotating. This is really useful for controlling fingers, tails, or any other chain on individual. If you want to make long chains of bones curl, try changing the pivot point to individual origins by pressing period or by using this drop.
Alright, we're going to show you how to import a character that you created in Blender that is animated in Blender, but how do you actually transfer this into Unity? I'll walk you through the simple steps. The first step is you want to make sure you export your file from Blender, so that way you can actually import it into Unity. Go up to File, Export, FBX, put this wherever you like. We're just going to call this sad capybara. And now that we have exported it, we're then going to hop into Unity. So wherever your project's located, you can make a new folder. We're going to call this one Animations. And drop your FBX that you created. So sad capybara, we're going to drag that into the scene. One thing you'll notice is if you drag your character in, it's not going to look like this. It'll probably be pink or purple, or it just will be the color. It won't have the textures. So please do make sure you have the textures. So for example, these are the two textures that I will drag in. And as you can see, if I were to drag it on the floor, that's the barrel texture. And then if I drag it on here, that's the capybara texture. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to hit play real quick. When I hit play, basically nothing's going to happen. The character's not going to move, it's not going to do anything. And the reason why is because we have to actually go into our folder, and we have to click this little arrow sort of pointy thing, and it'll expand on what is actually inside our FBX, and you'll see this thing called armature. So we're going to click on our 3D model. Make sure you click on the group. Don't click on like the armature, the cube, or whatever cylinder. Make sure you click on the group, and then drag the armature onto the right side where the inspector is, and now you'll see there's this thing called animator in sad capybara. So next thing you want to do is you want to actually, and you'll also see this animator controller, which will now be able to tell Unity. Unity now understands that, hey, there's an animation going, and now you want to double click the sad capybara. This is obviously optional, but this is if you want to loop your animation. Double click on the armature, the orange thing, and you'll see on the right side, it's going to have a new tab. If you scroll down, it'll say loop time. You want to click that and check it, and now, in theory, if you save it, Control S or Command S, go back into your scene, and next thing you know, when you hit play in your game, something really cool will happen, and that is your character now moves. So I hope this helped. This is something that I was stuck on for a little bit, but I just wanted to make a video to explain it, and I hope this helped. Make sure to check out some of the other videos, and peace. animator in Sad Capybara. Click on the play, basically nothing's going to happen. The character's not going to move, it's not going to do anything. And the reason why is because we have to actually go into our folder, and we have to click this little arrow sort of pointy thing, and it'll expand on what is actually inside our FBX, and you'll see this thing called armature. So we're going to click on our 3D model. Make sure you click on the group, don't click on like the armature, the cube, or whatever cylinder. Make sure you click on the group, and then drag the armature onto the right side where the inspector is, and now you'll see there's this thing called